Both my mother's father and my dad's father were both Irish, and when they moved into the neighbourhood, they had kind of signs up saying kind of no black people, no Irish people. That was just kind of standard thing. So this it kind of brings that home to me. And when I first came into the exhibition, I don't think I was going to have that kind of unique kind of perspective on it, and I don't think it was going to really kind of allow me to reflect on my own kind of history.
Centenary celebrates its 100th anniversary with a groundbreaking exhibition, Out of Chaos. This is Somerset House, exactly the type of location where we should be. Let's go inside and have a look. Art, identity, migration, great topics of the 21st century. Centenary 100 years in London. This exhibition, Out of Chaos, addresses all three subjects. Well, this room essentially is what this exhibition is about. Great art and context. Jacob Epstein, born in Manhattan, came to London, an immigrant. Portrait from 1921 of Jacob Kramer, born in Russia, an immigrant. Hageman, painting of a wealthy family, but on the move, forced out of their homes and their country. But the context, art is not in a bubble. Art is part of a wider circle of life. And this is our context. 20th century art history, Centenary history, and 20th century history in total. And where does it end up? It ends up Centenary welcoming Salah ud-Din, a Pakistani textile artist, to actually lecture to us next week. This is what this exhibition is about: art, identity, and migration. How many institutions are 100 years old? Centenary is. Founded in the East End of London in Whitechapel in 1915. We have archives now completely chronicled, going through literally on a weekly, monthly, annual basis. It's a rich resource for London, and it's a tremendously rich and interesting resource for Londoners. But look over here. What on earth is a wall of statistics, a wall of numbers doing in a fine art exhibition? Good question. And the answer is because this reflects the reality of migration to London. 2/3 of the artists in our collection were immigrants. Here you see from 1901 to 2001, they've just examples, 28 examples out of 300 different immigrant communities to London. From China, Jamaica, Bangladesh, Ireland, Russia. This is what makes London so remarkable, so successful, so special. London is a city of migrants, and it's richer as a result.
This first room of the exhibition looks at stories of integration and identity. The first painting in the room by Solomon Hart is a portrait of Queen Victoria showing his identification with the establishment. A suite of pictures here shows the deeper story of Jewish experience in London at this time, including observance and the leisure of the opulent Edwardian breakfast room. This painting by Alfred Wallmark references the Jewish journey of migration to East London. It includes details both of religious observance on the Sabbath afternoon, but also an identification as an artist with the wider movements of his English contemporaries. It is because of Jacob Epstein and David Bomberg that today we remember the Whitechapel Boys, the group of young Jewish painters who came out of the East End in the years leading up to the First World War and who made a distinct contribution to British modernism. From Mark Gertler's Rabbi and Rebbitzin, which looks at life in the East End, to a personal story in Isaac Rosenberg's self-portrait in steel helmet, sent back from the trenches before he was sadly killed there. In Jacob Kramer's Day of Atonement, we bring together British modernist techniques with the most solemn day in the Jewish religious calendar. Modernism at its bright, brash, brilliant best in Mark Gertler's merry-go-round, formerly in the Benary collection and now with the Tate. From that to the slightly depressed journey post-war of David Bomberg in Whitechapel's Ghetto Theatre. And this room concludes with a portrait by Claire Winston of Joseph Leftwich, who coined the term the Whitechapel Boys.
Room 3 we've entitled Forced Journeys, and it references the period 1933 to 45, the period of the second wave of major Jewish migration from Central Europe. The first two works are a contrasting pair of portraits. Yankel Adler's portrait, a religious Jew in a modernist vein. On the right, Arnold Dagani, Romanian émigré, Holocaust survivor, an extraordinary portrait of Hitler made from collaged elements. Zvi Ben-Zvi's portrait of Hor Belisha, the Minister for War. Then a small group of works that reference Weimar Germany, Lesser Uri's wonderful Berlin street scene, German Impressionism, Max Liebermann's poignant, prescient self-portrait from the late 20s, Ludwig Meidner, German expressionist who came into exile in London and had his only show with Ben-Uri in exile. Hanna Kowalska, who perished in the Holocaust, whose subject references the Eastern European Jewish shtetl. Moshe Oved's Hanukkah, Moshe Oved, important supporter of Ben-Uri. A pair of works referencing the boat motif by émigrés. On the left, Arthur Segal from Romania. On the right, Martin Bloch from Germany, who took a complicated migratory journey. Joseph Herman's poignant work of refugees, originally to be a generalized image. It became a personal record after his entire family were wiped out in the Warsaw Ghetto. We mustn't forget the artists who were not émigrés, who were based in England. Emmanuel Levy's response to the Holocaust with his Jewish crucifixion. Shmuel Dresner, Holocaust survivor, working with burnt paper, recalling to mind the burning of the books. And Barnett Friedman, yet another English artist, referencing D-Day and the D-Day preparations, another side of the war away from the Holocaust. And then another important issue, that of internment, where all aliens were interned from 1940 after Churchill's announcement to collar the lot. In this corner of the vitrine, we have a number of works that reference that period. On the left, by Ernst Eisenmeyer, Viennese émigré, the work depicts his imprisonment on the Isle of Man, where boarding houses were encircled by barbed wire and guards. On the right, we have Alfred Lomnitz's study of a girl behind barbed wire, and in the middle, his autobiography, published by Macmillan in 1941, with the cheery title, Never Mind, Mr. Lom, which was the greeting given by his charlady as he was taken away into internment by two policemen. And here we are in room 4. Room 4 we entitle Postwar, and it covers a very broad swathe of time. But during this time period, Ben-Uri actually turned in on itself and was located for many years in the 4th floor of a synagogue building in Soho, and wasn't able to acquire the masterpieces that it has acquired in the 21st century. But anyway, we start with a great pairing, Leon Kossoff on the left, portrait of Romanian émigré N.M. Sido. On the right, we have an early Auerbach life drawing from art school. Auerbach showed with Ben-Uri as a young artist. We then have a wonderful trio of characteristic portraits. On the left, we have John Rodker, Whitechapel Boy by David Bomberg. We then have Oro Vida Pizarro by émigré Clara Klinghoffer. And then R.B. Kittai's controversial portrait of Sir Klaus Moser. Then we have one of the few abstract works in the exhibition by Bernard Cohen, who was latterly professor at the Slade School, and that makes a nice dialogue with the early Whitechapel boys, who themselves were students at the Slade 100 years ago. And then the last two works in the room. On the left, we have Eva Frankfurter's study of West Indian waitresses from around about 1955. So one of the earliest representations of the Windrush generation. And then to the right, Michael Rothenstein, son of Sir William Rothenstein, part of the great Anglo-Jewish artistic dynasty. And he's referring to motifs from American pop art by artists such as Andy Warhol and Robert Rauschenberg. And we're now in room 5, the last room of the exhibition, where I'm surrounded by some of the masterpieces that Ben-Huri has acquired in the last 15 years in the 21st century. So on my left, Chaim Soutine, La Soubrette, the waiting maid. From Soutine, we have a wonderful pair of George Grosz. On the left, the interrogation, which gives one almost a visceral feel of repulsion. On the right, the lecture. And on the far left, Chagall's Apocalypse on Lilith, his response to the news of the Holocaust and of his wife's death. It's an extraordinary hermaphrodite crucifixion where the upper part of the body is that of a male Jew, the lower half, the naked body of a woman. Two works here dealing with photography. It's very important for Ben-Huri to engage with photography and new media for the 21st century. On the left-hand side, photojournalist Nathan de Veer's Homesh Evacuation. This is the third crucifixion in the exhibition. It's like a deposition. This is settlers being evicted from the West Bank. On the right, Dorothy Bohm, émigré photographer who came here as a young woman from Germany, set up a photography studio in Manchester, still working in her 90s. Here is one of the stars of the collection. This is Frank Auerbach's Mornington Crescent, in which the artist, with his wonderful rich palette and impasto paint, is returning to one of his favoured locations close to his studio. Auerbach paints the same locations, the same people, over and over again. What surprises people is that Ben-Huri is not just rooted in the East End. We have it founded here in 1915, next door to the Whitechapel Gallery, but most of Ben-Huri's homes have been in central London and West London. Somerset House is referenced here, and Brian Sewell made a very prescient comment in 2001 in a previous Ben-Huri exhibition at Phillips when he said that Ben-Huri ought to be somewhere like Somerset House.
Throughout the exhibition, Ben-Huri have been able to deliver a really interesting community and learning programme with a wide range of different audiences. Firstly, looking at artwork enables you to start conversations with people. The themes and the images enable you to get talking to our audiences about what they see and reflecting on perhaps their own personal stories. But also it's enabled us to develop some really interesting contemporary responses to the artworks, to create new artworks. We've also been running an artist residency project with the filmmaker Edwin Mingard. The film has interviewed people about their experiences of migration at various film screenings across London, and also with exhibition visitors and participants of our family events here at the exhibition.
What a rich contribution these immigrant artists made to the cultural life of Europe and particularly to Britain.
It's wonderful it's on show, but it's a pity that it may have to go back into storage.
As a Mexican, my parents immigrated to the US, so it kind of I don't know, I have a vibe, like a connection kind of.
Reflects on people from all walks of life coming here, trying to find a better life or escaping something, so that's resonating with me, yeah.
With all the wars going on in Syria and Iraq, of course, and its actuality right now. So, of course, we can compare this to those Jewish families and can give us a taste about what those peoples are feeling right now.
When I saw this advertised 3 or 4 months ago, I put it down as a must-see. And I like the idea very much that the Ben-Huri is now broadening that out to cover the artistic experience of other immigrant communities. I think that's a wonderful way to broaden and maximise the original idea.
Well over 25,000 people have seen this exhibition in a few short months. Why? Because it's about the collection and the stories that it tells. We have 1,300 works by 380 artists from 35 countries of birth. It is a unique collection, not just masterpieces of the 200 works that we bought, including Chagall, George Grosz, Soutine, but also young artists like Nathan de Veer, a 91-year-old artist, Dorothy Bohm, both as vital and as energetic as each other. This is an exhibition that has relevance to any city in the country and any city in the world. Ben-Huri has that relevance.